All right, it's Tuesday, July 2nd. This is an end of the day SPY recap. And today on the daily chart, we end up with a two up, pretty big green day that moved up pretty much all day long, held above the midpoint of the prior day, took out the high of the previous day. So there's your two up bar. It was actually an actionable signal. You had the three bar here 2 days ago. We had the two down with a hammer. And then once you got the two up, there was a projection up, back to the highs of the range up here. We've identified this big range that we're looking, to see what happens. We're inside of it at the moment. And as it turns out, today was a nice move back to the upside, given the opening price action that started higher, which I'll show you in a second, and continued all day long. So, there's a little bit of a pause area here at the midpoint of this tail, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But since it closed pretty strongly green, it looks like you should get some follow through to the highs of the range, and we'll see then at that point what kind of breakout either occurs or fails. On the weekly chart, it looks like the same thing is unfolding this week as the last 2 weeks. We've had some shooter bars here that you think might have a little bit of a pullback, but opening price action, during the week is not going lower. Instead, it's going higher. So we're green on the week, we're green on the month. This purple line here is now the open of the week and the month, and as long as we stay above that, we stay biased to the green side. And if we're going to fail, we'll get below that. So we kind of have a good reference point. If we look at the monthly chart, once again, now after this green month prior, you kind of expected that high to be tested. The question was going to be, are you going to start a little lower, maybe to the midpoint of that month and then go up, or are we going to go there first and then see what happens? It looks like at this point, we're heading up early in the month to take out that high. At that point, we see what happens. We take out the high of the previous month, assuming we do that. And then at that point, that's all this bar is expected to do, and we could get a failure. If we get a failure, we're going to have to come back through the open, turn this month red, and a real failure would be getting back through the midpoint of this month. So we will see, how things go in terms of the rest of the month, and we have a good reference point here for that purple line open. So let's see if we take out the high first. That's what seems to be developing, and we might get green all month long, kind of like the previous month. So that's the reference point on the monthly chart. In terms of structure today, it was very actually straightforward in terms of the fact that between the blue lines was the pre-market range. We knew we had the hammer bar from yesterday. We opened up with a nice big green bar. We had 3 or 4 bars of pausing and then broke out to the upside. I bought some call options here. I shot some videos on it. I scaled out to set up a no-risk trade, and then I decided I shot videos how I decided to buy puts here at this yellow line, and anticipating a potential failure. I knew we weren't there yet, but I kind of watched price action being pretty sluggish at a key area here, coming back into the first bar range, back through the purple line. So I was able to scale out here and set up kind of a no-risk scenario. I shot a video right on this green bar saying this was actually a secondary buy signal right here. So if my put trade was going to work, we were going to have to kind of hold in here and then roll over to the downside and ultimately take out the midpoint of this first bar. And if not, then I was ready to kind of break even on the second part of my trade. So I took a very small gain here on the puts. I took a small gain here on the calls. And as it turns out, just being wrong in terms of a potential thing, I guess you can say missed out on a bit of a secondary move to the upside, but point wise, it's not all that much. It's just a couple of points higher. But nevertheless, if you look at the chart, it's a pretty clear one push up, pause, second push up. So that's really what unfolded here today, even though, and I think I even alluded to that, sometimes these days when it looks like it's tricky, but it's obviously holding, the open, the first move up, one pause, second push up. Sometimes you do get some momentum a little later in the session. That's what unfolded today. And again, it was all in line with the actionable signal to the upside that right from the start gave you a buy signal, and there was really no reason to look to the downside. And in the end, the only failure really would have occurred on this day if we came back to the midpoint of this bar, had something red down here to start testing these lows. So that never unfolded, just classic 2 pushes up, and we end up, closing strongly green. So let's just see now with a shortened week, what develops here. It looks like we're going to probably test the high of this range. Anytime you're in the range, you can always test it and then either continue strong or fail. So we'll look for maybe that, we'll look for that type of thing one way or the other if we get to the top of there. And to fail tomorrow, for example, we have to get back to the midpoint of this green bar. That's not expected, but we have a good that actually aligns with the open here on the purple line. So as long as we stay above that, we're expecting to test higher. We'll see what kind of day unfolds. If we do start up, we'll see if we break out of this big range that's, here's the high, the low, the high, the low, the high. So we'll see if we break out of this area. That's sort of a key thing. And nothing would surprise me at this point, that we could come up there and fail, or we could come up there and continue higher. But at least we have good reference points now, starting out the month, to stay green as long as we're above the purple line, and look for anything to fail, maybe getting below that line. So we'll go from there. But at least on the weekly chart, it's kind of tough to get any kind of pullback in this market. I mean, we had one little one here that immediately got buying. We've had 2 weeks in a row here of pausing. That's just not going lower, and we're continuing higher. So that's the story, and we'll see how the shortened week ends with 2 days to go.